Hello, protocols, packets, and programs. I am not Mike Shima, and this is not your typical episode of ASW. It's noon on a Monday. Do you know where your agents are? Do you know what MCP servers are talking to? Have you told them not to talk to strange models? Which means that this week, Officer Scott Clinton is here to talk to your agents class. After that, we'll cover the latest AI and non AI AppSec news. Stay tuned for Application Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show to learn the latest tools and techniques to understand DevOps, applications, and the cloud. Your trusted source for the latest AppSec news. It's time for Application Security Weekly. Generative AI is powerful, but it comes with real risks, from prompt injection to data leakage misuse and agentic AI. The OWASP GenAI Security Project unites a global community of expert practitioners who tackle these challenges every day. Together, they've built practical playbooks, adoption guides, and the OWASP Top 10 for LLMs, resources any team can apply right now to strengthen AI security. And it doesn't stop there. This is open source, built by practitioners, for practitioners, working together to secure generative AI. Visit securityweekly.com/OWASP to use the playbooks and join the effort to protect tomorrow's intelligence today.
This is episode 348, recorded on Monday, September 15th, 2025. I'm your host, for this episode at least, Adrian Sanabria. And we've got a quick announcement, and then we'll jump into the interview. Join us for InfoSec World 2025, October 27th through 29th in sunny Lake Buena Vista, Florida at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. Workshops run October 25th through 26th and October 29th through 30th, so before and after the event. The premier cybersecurity conference is here, and you can save 25% with code ISW25-SW at securityweekly.com/ISW2025. All right, this interview is sponsored by OWASP, and today we're discussing the latest guidance and tools from the OWASP GenAI project. With us today is Scott Clinton, board member and co-chair of the OWASP GenAI Security Project. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me.
You are not an officer, a police officer, but I thought
No,
that
I'm
would
not
be
a police
fun
officer.
in the intro.
No, not the police officer type. No.
So the technology kind of strikes me like children, which kind of inspired that. Like, do you know who your agents are talking to? Because I think that's going to be one of our big concerns is where are those instructions coming from? With things like indirect prompt injection, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that we've been working on. So for those who, obviously, a lot of people already know OWASP. So for those who may not be aware, our group's been working quite a bit in the agentic security space. So we published a bunch of resources and research in that space. And like you said, one of the big concerns is, now you're giving these agents a fair amount of agency. How are you now going to manage and monitor the behavior between those? We're working toward getting a lot more around automation. That's kind of the focus around applying these agent architectures. And so now you're going to have this challenge that we're moving away from what were more deterministic ways that we drive automation to much less deterministic ways, not knowing exactly what those agents are going to do.
So I want to start off just by talking about the scope of what you're doing, because honestly, we've been covering a lot of the resources on the show where I'm the main host, Enterprise Security Weekly, as you guys have been releasing stuff. And we've definitely noticed just the pace and scope of things being released over there. We've given you a lot of shout outs over there just for, because as quickly as this technology is changing, it's just lovely to see stuff come out in months and not years. Like we just can't, this is a common topic that there doesn't seem to be any time to prepare for this for a lot of defenders out there. That no is not an option. Their businesses are going to start rolling this stuff out. They're going to start using this stuff, and they really don't feel ready. So I think it's a huge service to everybody in the industry that you guys are pumping out stuff so quickly.
Yeah, and I think that you point out a really important point of this whole thing is that this stuff is happening so quickly. And it's iterating quickly. It's moving, so it's not as if you have time to wait. And then you have this sort of dynamic out there where there's a lot of people with opinions around things that are what to do from a security perspective, which is great. Part of what we've done is kind of try to find that middle ground between the opinions and the standards, because as you know, standards take like forever.
Hmm.
Just because you're trying to get consensus, and it takes time, and technology is moving too quickly, and we have people who are looking at these implementations that are happening right now, and things are rapidly changing. I mean, for example, when we started out looking at agentic security, we actually started looking at that probably, I think it was about November, December of last year.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of pressure to put out a top 10. So as you know, OWASP, the top 10 is sort of the thing, right? Everybody goes to that first. We first started putting out a top 10 for LLMs and generative AI, and then moved past that to start working on more solutions around it. But even as we started to look at the agentic top 10, just back, I said, at the November, December of last year, there was a lot of pressure, but the technology was not really there. The team did an analysis of what are the application patterns that existed, because trying to do threat modeling on non-existent application patterns is a nice theoretical
Yeah.
exercise, but you got to tie it to kind of real world. And we've got everybody who's contributing here are people who are trying to having to deal with this on a day-to-day basis, and so they're not being, like you said, asked to wait. Their management is
Yeah.
rolling stuff out.
Yeah.
So when we looked at those application patterns, we said, it's not quite ready. We don't have enough data, but we need to put out some guidance. So our general guidance for the project has been to focus on putting out the insights that we have, or the information we have when we have it, and then focus on iteration. And so the idea is, let's get some guidance out, let's iterate quickly, and let's try to keep up with the flow without getting too caught up in what's perfect, and understanding that all of this is moving. And as an example with that, with the agentic side, we ended up, when we started out, we didn't even have things like A2A and MCP didn't exist
Right.
when we
Hmm.
first started, right? So that was 6 months into it. Now A2A and MCP are all the conversation, because they're all part of the evolving architecture. And now we're at a point where we can start doing some stuff with doing some better prioritization around that. But the whole goal is to move fast and to focus on iteration.
Yeah, and it's I can't remember a technology that I saw rewrite every product roadmap as quickly as generative AI, and then MCP, right?
Yep.
MCP, I don't think, is quite a year old yet, since Anthropic released it, and it seems like
It's
everybody has an
months
MCP
old.
server now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
months old. That's it. And yeah, to your
yeah.
point.
So
And
just the scope of this project, something I want to touch on real quick before we dive into some of the specific projects and
sure.
technical details and things like that. But how are you producing this much content this quickly? And we'll get into exactly what some of that content is.
Yeah.
Is this a full-time job for you? Are there a ton of volunteers? Do you have sponsors? Help me understand. Because I get the impression that OWASP Gen AI stuff is its own kind of self-contained entity within OWASP.
Yeah, we started, to your point, we started a little differently. We started with a top 10 list.
Mhm.
And with that, we kind of expanded into understanding that there were needs for solutions. So a top 10 list gives you some risks and mitigations. And then the idea was we kind of need to think about solutions. We also saw tons of people picking up the original top 10 list and using it. Maybe not the people you would expect. So we identified CISOs picking it up, and all sorts of other people all up and down the chain of the organizations picking it up as a guide, because there wasn't much available then. So, as a group, we're fundamentally a volunteer organization. So we started out, and everybody who's contributing are either practitioners. So a lot of what we're building is the practitioner content is built by practitioners, CISOs for CISOs. So it's an all volunteer effort. That's one of the things that has really helped us accelerate a lot of the content the teams have been developing, because we do have these large working groups. We started out as maybe about 400 people around the top 10 list. Now we're somewhere around, I think there's around 5 or 6,000 people on our Slack who are part of the contributing core. So we
Five
have
or 6,000?
yeah, on our Slack.
Wow.
And then we have working groups that are in the 100 or so odd members that are working on this on an ongoing basis. We've been really fortunate that we've had contributions from the frontier model providers, from security companies, all kind of coming through and doing this as sort of their own volunteer time outside of their day-to-day job. But a lot of it is people, and it comes back to the pace that we kind of set, which is the people coming back to do things to solve their day-to-day problems. So being able to go to a community and do that. And that was one of the big shifts we made in our strategy with the community, which was to go from a community that was creating a product or a document, right? So with like the top 10, to an expert community where we've got more of a community that can more easily move and pivot and address the evolving issues. So we have this core that can do that. And then we've had tons of members jump on board. I think our LinkedIn somewhere around 18,000 folks on our LinkedIn right now. So it's been this huge community growth, and it's all been driven by volunteers, community for community. And then we've been empowered by a lot of our sponsors. So yeah, you mentioned that we're kind of operating as a adjunct group to OWASP. It's because we've kind of become a project of projects. So in many ways, sort of a mini OWASP in some senses, just focused, laser focused on generative AI security. And that's helped us build that community of expertise and be able to kind of move quickly where it's been challenging otherwise.
So I actually spent a lot of my time, at least one or two companies a week I'm advising on AI security through IANS. I'm a faculty over at IANS, and sometimes three or four, just depending on the week.
Mhm.
How would I join? How would somebody join to volunteer with this? I think I would mostly be a consumer, but I also have just a lot of thoughts. Yeah, I would love to be able to bounce off other people who are also kind of neck deep in this stuff. Because you never want to be too isolated when you're giving advice on these things.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we have both consumers and contributors as part of the community, and that's I think
Mhm.
part of the success that we've kind of had, because people are bringing their problems or their use cases that they're trying to address, and
Right.
then that comes out to the community. So you don't have to be an expert in a particular area. You can certainly be someone with a problem and bring that to the community, and you can address that in a couple different ways through our more open community conversation areas, through our Slack, through if you decide you have a passion about a particular area, you can certainly drill in and want to contribute as well. We have right now 8 working groups. So we expanded from the one top 10 list, which we do continue to focus on a working group on the top 10 for LLMs. And then we have 8 working groups now. So whether you're looking at data security for Agentic, we have a group that's working on CTI. So basically looking at threat intelligence and doing analysis between different LLMs, both as a bad actor and also as a way to understand how to defend against them, and publishing resources around that. We have another working group that's focusing on Agentic, which we talked about a little bit earlier. We've got a working group focusing on red teaming. So we put out a red teaming guide to help people learn how to do red teaming for Agentic, for generative AI systems. We put that out a little bit about a year ago, and it's been put together by people who are doing red teaming. So this is their day-to-day job. So if you're in any of those areas and you want to jump in and contribute, that's great. We also have a working group focused on secure AI adoption, and that's putting out things like a checklist originally that we did for generative AI for your governance and compliance, and then we also did a guide. This group is actually a little more focused towards CISOs and how do you start to enable your organizations to secure generative AI. So we just actually announced I think it was last week, I just put out an announcement for our Threat Defense Compass, which is actually a tool. So the
Mhm.
team is not just providing guidance, but we're also providing tools, some source code examples. So we're providing as much resources as we can. So the tool that just came out, the Compass, helps you map the threats to your action plan for an organization. So if you're a CISO, if you're a security leader, and you're trying to figure out how to apply this complex, fast-moving stuff, we provided a tool that kind of consolidates a lot of the information that the projects has been producing, MITRE frameworks, as well as other frameworks that are out there, all of your CVEs,
Atlas.
Atlas, exactly, in a way that you can go ahead and action those for your teams, and so that and create a dashboard and manage that. So that's a new resource that we just put out last week. So we're continuing to try to find different ways to come up with solutions for these areas.
So it looks like genai.owasp.org/contribute is where folks could go to there's a biweekly sync, the Slack channel links. It looks like all that stuff is right there, which is um,
Yeah,
I almost definitely going to join that Slack channel after we finish up here.
yeah. So yeah, that's the main way to get engaged with us is really to kind of join that Slack channel. Check out that website because we do have information on the contribute. We also have another great page to look at if you're trying to figure out where to get engaged is the roadmaps page.
Mm.
So under projects, you'll see roadmaps. You'll see the each of the different work streams, and then what they're working on delivering over the next through I think it's Q1 of 2026. So we have a roadmap of different resources that the projects are building that are available through that. So it's a great way to kind of determine, hey, this is an area either as a consumer of the resources that these are things that I'm interested in, so I can go track and find out what's coming up next, or these could be areas that you want to go ahead and jump in on. By the same token, if you have things that you want to go do that aren't listed, join the Slack, bring it up in the community channels. We're not too fancy when it comes to that stuff. So, but come and share those particular needs that you have around use cases, et cetera. And it definitely becomes part of the conversation. And you could be, spurring on some more work that we need to do. As you said, the stuff is changing so rapidly. We're always looking for contribution, feedback, collaboration.
So one of the things you mentioned that people certainly think of top 10 lists when they think of
Yeah.
OWASP, but one of the other things I think that comes to people's minds are the vulnerable tools to test to understand how the vulnerabilities work, and I think you've got a few of those in this area as well.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is a couple things. One, we're operating as the GenAI Security Project. We are collaborating with different projects within OWASP to make sure things like the Cyclone DX and other tools are kind of evolving to support the AI standards that we need to support. In addition, we just for Agentic, we rolled out a new capture the flag application, so FIMBOT. So if you're trying to figure out and you want to go ahead and start creating some insecure agents, that's a great tool that we provided for folks to be able to do that. We've also provided a lot of code samples for what examples of insecure agents are.
Mhm. I saw that.
Um, so so you can use those to kind of figure out, all right, so how can I defend against these? So these are some great resources, and we're continuing to have some more tools coming up that the project is working on. We have several organizations are looking to donate some of their tools, and we're looking to take some of those on as well to kind of help make sure we've got both a set of information and a toolkit that's effective for folks to be able to do everything from the generative AI, general applications, RAG type applications, et cetera, to things that are more specifically focused around agentic, for example. Yeah.
From almost a taxonomical point of view, how do you see large language models and generative AI security versus the agentic stuff? Like in some cases, I see people talking about using MCP just as a way to automate things and glue things together, maybe not even using AI at all. Like are agentic and generative AI, are these going to be separate top tens? Are they kind of inseparable the way you guys are going after them? Is there a separate top 10 for agentic and LLMs? Or, how do you think of these two things, these two technologies, in terms of how you're producing content to advise people?
Yeah, so I think that the way that we think about it is that, if we're talking about just the top 10, the LLM for generative AI, that has been sort of our starting point. And we looked at that as kind of capturing both what's happening in LLMs and what's happening in LLM application architectures.
Mm,
And so as we started, as I mentioned before, when we first started the top 10, we did look at agents. Even the 2025 top 10 mentions agents as a concept in terms of looking at these new application architectures, multi-agent application architectures as well. But there's also the need to, I think, drill down and be very specific, because we are talking about a whole new set of architectural components. You mentioned MCP being one,
mhm.
A2A. There's a ton of different frameworks that from LangGraph. You can go through the long list of different agentic
MCP is
frameworks.
looking like the VHS so far, and A2A is kind of looking like the Betamax
It
from
is.
where I'm standing.
Yeah. I think that's true, because I think they were a little bit coming from different design centers. One is more
Mhm,
sort of the inter-service communications, and the one's sort of the communication to external systems in a lot of
mhm.
ways. And I think part of the pain points people are seeing is trying to do those external communications are probably the first thing they're trying to do in their applications. And so I think there's probably, well, it's going to be interesting to see, because I also feel like there probably will be a few other protocols that may pop up along the way, given history. If I look back at what we were doing from a service-oriented architecture perspective, we moved through a lot of protocols. There are a lot of ones that thought we were winners early up that kind of over time kind of became also rans. So I think it's important to make sure that we're looking at that entire landscape and keeping track of it. And as a result, I think the team, as I mentioned before, we looked at agentic as a potential area, but didn't have enough data around it. So now we are going to do a top 10 for agentic. So because we've got application patterns, we have new protocols, we have people putting these in deployment. So now there's a characteristics that are specific to those applications that need to be looked at, whether it's thinking about memory and context, whether it's looking at agency and reasoning in the context of a new agentic application architecture. I mean, identity is one of those things that I think everybody recognizes that MCP, when it came out, really didn't have any identity concepts. And so,
Mhm.
there's some big, or authentication. The authentication was, I would call it, weak at best.
Yep.
And so there's some of these things that, as we start to evolve them, while they may be the most popular to start with, or solving one of the most key pain points, still need to evolve. And that's why we're doing a dedicated top 10 for agentic security. Now that there's
Okay.
enough patterns. And so we've got that as underway. We actually kicked that off. We had a event at we kicked that off in August at Black Hat, coinciding with Black Hat, and we had folks from globally getting together in Israel, in London, in a bunch of different other places, Athens, and then Las Vegas, to come together and get that kicked off, because the team felt like we now had enough resources where we could prioritize a top 10.
Mhm.
And there was enough application architecture out there to do things like threat modeling around it,
Uh,
where
Enough mistakes made at this point, maybe also.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole thing, right? So one of the things that we wanted to do, we had already gone through a couple of hackathons. We wanted to kind of get some of that, both not only just getting the mistakes people have made, but then also getting some real data behind it, some real experience behind it. So a lot of that kind of came to the front, and we've been able to leverage that in terms of, working toward getting this next top 10. In fact, we already have, I think it was 18 uh, tool providers who had started to implement the original our agentic risks and mitigations in their products,
Hmm.
to kind of help organizations kind of do threat modeling or do at least understanding kind of their threat position as it relates to agentic security. So we're seeing a lot of that type of adoption, which is great.
Yeah, that is great. Again, with that speed, like of adopting this stuff, um, it's really necessary.
Yeah.
So I would be, I've got to take advantage of the fact that you're living and breathing this stuff all day to jump into some of your thoughts and what you're saying. And I have at least one burning question for you. Maybe I'll just start with the burning question, and then let you direct us where you see kind of the biggest issues. I mean, a lot of what I'm seeing, and I don't recall the entire top 10, but a lot of it's input validation, right? It's what these things are consuming. I mean, there's issues with outputs as well, but it we covered a number of stories that just kind of emphasized how easy it is to do indirect prompt injection
Yeah.
and all the various different ways that you can do this. Something as simple as white text on white background in an email, or hidden text in a PDF that's consumed. It doesn't seem to me like it should be a hard problem, but maybe I just don't understand the architecture well enough to for the LLM, or at least whatever you're parsing the prompts with before you hand to the LLM, because it seems like you need a shim there. um, that it shouldn't be a hard problem to separate intentional direct prompting, like
Mhm.
somebody typed this into a prompt or it was passed from another agent, versus I got these instructions from the internet, or from somebody's LinkedIn profile, or from the body of an email, or from a PDF. Uh, it seems like it's going to be really necessary to be able to separate instructions from an untrusted location and a trusted location, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why? But at the same time, we've got folks telling bug bounty hunters like that's out of scope. Those kinds of bugs are out of scope. Like, we're not even looking to fix that. So I'm confused here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the whole area around prompt injection has always been sort of the one of the forefront kind of conversation areas, and it has a couple of different aspects to it. There, as you point out, it's pretty easy to get content in that's not secure, and it's also done by folks who are maybe just not educated toward what they can use it for. It feels a lot of folks we hear customers are just not turning out, are trying to not turn on, which I always think is kind of a challenge, an interesting challenge to say, hey, yeah, you just can't use it. And but at this for those very same reasons. But at the same time, people are going home and they're using it from the home in their home browser. So
Mhm.
being able to figure out ways to secure it is important. Part of, I think, the challenge that you hear is that it is a little bit of it's kind of easy to get around in a lot of ways, because it's individuals making those choices. And so you need to have, we talk about zero trust as one of the traditional kind of frameworks that we use. So having zero trust browsers with kind of insights in the browsers to be able to do that from an end user perspective. But then you need to also have things like gateways, effectively LLM
Mhm.
type firewalls in between applications to be able to scan for that kind of tech, those kind of issues as well.
So is this
Or-
going to be like the system we eventually had to set up that clicks links for you before in your email before you even receive that email, right? Like sandboxing.
yeah, I think sandboxing is going to be one of those potential areas to kind of look at, and it's hard to a little bit on the sandboxing because it's not just about clicking links or verifying
Right.
links. You're now having to verify context,
Mhm.
and that's a little bit harder, like a lot harder. Which is why I think you see a lot of the bounty guys going, yeah, no, that's out of scope, because now
Yeah.
we're having to understand the context of the prompt. And so there's a lot of opportunities for innovation in that area. And I think that's going to be one of our big challenges there, because it impacts both from an end user perspective, and it also impacts as we start thinking about agentic um, workflows. Now you're looking to provide agents with a lot more agency. And so the
Mhm.
ability to do prompt injection there through an API protocol, could be makes it even more challenging. It's sort of a, you think about the web APIs that we've had, that's another entry point for any of these agents. So REST-based API, feed in some some JSON that's a little bit questionable.
Mhm.
That's another way that we could also be looking at more risks and areas that we need to kind of focus on. How do we secure that more effectively?
Yeah. And I understand we are Security Weekly and OWASP are doing a virtual summit. So I want to mention that before we have to wrap here.
Yeah. We're working on a virtual summit that's happening, I think, in October 9th, where we're bringing together a lot of the folks from the project who've been presenting in a lot of places, as well as some folks from the community to kind of share more about the research and what we've been finding. So we're looking forward to that as a great way to kind of share. We've had some great events where we've had people in person. One of the feedback we've had is, can you do something virtual? And I think this is a great partnership with CRA to kind of put this together. So if you're, definitely this is a place to kind of dial in. We'll have panels on red teaming. We'll have the Agentic team there. They'll be talking about the FIMBot on the Agentic. So if you're looking at
Cool.
capture the flag applications, we have folks from SAP who will be talking about how they're adopting the OWASP GenAI Security Project content into their processes, so that the folks
Mhm.
coming from their IT and their security organizations, how they are applying it. So another good aspect there. We'll also have a session, I believe, on the another session on the newly released Compass. So you can get hands-on with I think Sandy Dunn, who's been working on kind of the lead for the Compass, will be going through the Compass, so you can see how to apply that to your real world. So a lot of
Excellent.
stuff coming up.
Yeah, and I imagine we'll have that on seworld.com under events. I believe is where we have the virtual summits.
Yep.
So I'll be checking my calendar for that because several things there that I would love to check out. And yeah, I've got some action items coming out of this interview. Some stuff I need to do. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today on Application Security Weekly.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Make sure you visit securityweekly.com/OWASP to learn more. And we'll be right back in a few moments with some application security news.
Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Security Weekly and CyberRisk TV are headed back to one of the biggest identity security events of the year, Octane 2025, put on by Okta, live September 24th through 26th from the vibrant city of Las Vegas. Octane 2025 brings together the best minds in identity, security, and technology innovation. And this year, we're pumping up the volume. Security Weekly will be on site in full force, with Mandy Logan and Adrian Sanabria leading the charge. Get ready for a live-streamed executive interviews, exclusive on-site editorial coverage from SC Media, and brand new this year, a live-streamed episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. It's your chance to engage with identity leaders, dive into the future of AI security, and hang out with your favorite Security Weekly hosts. And here's the best part. Security Weekly listeners get an exclusive discount. Just head to securityweekly.com/Octane, register, and use promo code OKTNSCMA25 to get your conference pass for $200. See you there.
Welcome back to Application Security Weekly. Now for the Application Security Weekly news. And thank you so much, Josh Marpet, for joining me today. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. No, happy to be here. How are you doing?
Doing good. We've got two folks who aren't normally on the show here today. And yeah, hopefully it meets Shima and all the audience's standards. But yeah, we've got a few interesting items to discuss in the news today, and one or two of them isn't even about AI, which I feel like anymore. Like I was telling my partner the other day, I don't do security podcasts anymore. I do AI podcasts.
It's pretty true. Honestly, most of the stories these days are either about AI or some offshoot of AI. And most of the questions I get asked just about every day from clients is, how do I stop AI, start AI, use AI, pay for AI? It's crazy.
Yeah. So the first one here, I love. I have some pretty strong takes on replacing people with AI. I think there are certainly jobs out there that have already replaced or been replaced by AI. So if your job, here's my hot take, Josh. If your job is just a basic task, like you're writing blog posts for SEO
Yeah.
for a marketing company on contract, if you're a graphic designer, and again, most of these jobs I think were contract jobs, not full time jobs. But yeah, if
No,
if if
a lot of them were
if
full time. It depends.
if
Yeah.
even your full-time job is just creating an image for a blog post, right, doing basic graphic design stuff, that's it's going to be pretty hard to to and again, it comes to quality, like when your expectation of quality or your need is that mediocre is fine, you're gone,
You're
your job
toast.
is gone.
Yeah.
Like if
First level
mediocre is
tech
okay,
support,
if
toast,
you care about quality, those jobs still exist, because let's be honest, like with AI, like there's only so far you can go in terms of quality. Particularly if you're looking for something very specific, or if you're looking for a specific style, it becomes very hard to prompt it and get it to come out exactly the way
Right.
you're wanting. But one of the other things we saw early on, a lot of people were like, "Oh, AI is going to be great for taking interns and newbies and junior folks and skilling them up." And then very quickly we found, oh no, these people don't have the experience to know when it's wrong, and it's wrong a lot of the time. So actually, not so good for entry level people. Actually, a more useful tool for people with experience, because then they can get the value out of it and throw away the stuff that's wrong because they have enough experience to know. So the first article here is AWS CEO says replacing junior developers with AI is the dumbest thing he's ever heard.
So before we even get started in that, I want to address something you just said because I
Yeah.
saw a great thing earlier today. It was a meme, sort of, but it was a professor at a college. Instead of like trying to find better ways to detect AI in his students' writing, he told them, "Hey, I want you to use ChatGPT or similar to write an essay about a topic of your choice. Check it with me first, and then when the essay is done, your essay is to prove it wrong."
Mm.
And his students were shocked. Like, how can you prove it wrong? It's always right. He said, just try. So they went and they did this. And about 70% of them were like, oh my God, it was horrible. It was so wrong. And they'd never understood that it was wrong before. Because to them, it's the
Yeah.
source of all information, you know? So I think this is brilliant because to me, this is him teaching them the limitations of the
Yeah.
chosen tools that they're using. And your point about how the junior developers don't get how it can be wrong. They don't have the experience to go, wait, something's off about that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Exactly.
don't have that gut check yet. That comes from experience.
And the whole point of the junior developers being expendable, they're not going to need them anymore. There's a few problems with that. Number one, they're the cheapest people in the damn company. Okay.
Yeah.
You want more of the cheaper people because people are the most expensive part of your profit and loss system. I'm guaranteeing you right now, people are the most expensive thing in your company. So you want the less people, well, or you want the more cheaper ones. Plus, where are you going to get the senior ones if you get rid of all the junior ones? I know, but people retire and they age
Yeah.
out and they
Yeah.
stop working for you. And where are you going to get them if you don't train them or build them up somewhere?
Yeah, so some quotes from him that back up exactly what you're saying there. Yeah, he says, explaining his logic, he says they're probably the least expensive employees you have. They're the most leaned in to your AI tools. And like, how's that going to work when you go 10 years in the future and you have no one who's built up or learned anything? from how to use these tools, how to use them effectively. They're on the front lines of that. And then he says he believes companies still need to hire new graduates. He says, my view is you absolutely want to keep hiring kids out of college and teaching them the right ways to go build software and decompose problems and think about it just as much as you ever have. Yeah. So
God, thank you. Somebody
yeah,
who's
and
teaching
that's kind of
proper work.
yeah, like the whole the vibe of this entire article is thank God somebody at the top of one of these big tech companies gets it.
Oh my God. Do you know how refreshing this is, dude? Like, seriously. Thank you for bringing this article up, because it is so refreshing to see somebody get it through their skull that AI is not FM. It is not HPFM. It is not high performance fucking magic. It is not fucking magic. It is not
Yeah.
any of the above. Okay. It is a tool. And as a tool, it can be incredibly useful. It can be incredibly productive. It can be fun. It can be awesome. It can be incredibly therapeutic for some people, but it is not a replacement for the wet matter between ears.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I think one of the big so my whole take on it replacing jobs is that often when people talk about this, they mistake tasks for jobs. What they're really talking about is tasks. And like I said before, if your whole job is a task,
Yeah.
then sure, you might get replaced. But if you survey, and there have been a bunch of studies of how software engineers do what they do, what their job is composed of, and oftentimes it's like 10% of what they're doing is writing code, right? And in a lot of cases here, I don't think people really even understand sometimes in their own personal case what they do. Like I'm not sure they could even make a list for you. Like, what do you do in your job that brings value? And you have to make that list. And then can AI do this? How about that? How about this? And again, like with AI being wrong so much of the time, you still need a human in the loop. Even if it can do everything on that list, it's going to be wrong 40% of the time, 60% of the time. Somebody, human still needs to be an experienced human, still needs to be in that loop to call BS on it when there's BS.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, because we're seeing this, oh my God, we need AI. We need AI. If we don't have AI, we're going to get left in the dust. And realistically, that's not the case. It's AI is useful. It's a tool, but you're not going to get left in the dust as long as you're providing the value that your customers need or your employer needs.
And since we're already on the topic, one of my concerns about AI, and I've given a couple talks on this, titled "Is AI the greatest janitor or the worst superhero?" And the TLDR, the topic is, hey, AI can do some useful stuff, but let's not promise the world and deliver less and get it blacklisted, right? Because there have been many times in the past where technology comes in, it fails to live up to its promises. And then, anytime that comes up in the future, CTO, nope, CIO, nope, we don't want anything to do with that. We tried that once and it failed, and we're not falling for that again. So story number 4, why everybody is losing money on AI, adds to that concern, right? Like my talk was mostly about the hype, getting it kind of blacklisted in companies, but it looks like it might not even be economically viable, even if it was perfect and great and was right 100% of the time. Maybe it collapses anyway just because it's not economically viable.
I don't. Okay, let me tell you that I think that's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. Number one is you can still run AI locally. I run LM Studio and use it on a daily basis as a tool for productivity.
Yeah, the tech isn't going anywhere. It's open source. It's out there. People find it useful. It will exist in some form.
It's incredibly useful.
Agreed.
It's a great tool. Yeah. But the enterprise version of this, which is based upon stolen content, which is, my opinion, please don't sue me, which is based upon the idea that any content out there on the internet and any content I can get my hot little hands on is available to me for use in any way that I desire. There's lawsuits about that, and laws and precedents and data sovereignty and all kinds of fun topics that in compliance world we'd get into pretty heavily when somebody goes, well, we're going to use AI and we're going to take the data from, whoa, did you get permission for that data? Oh, well,
Mhm.
no. Well, then how are you going to use it? Oh, well, it's out there, so we can just use it. No. You see those little C's and circles? They mean copyright, details, details, details. And so I took a quick read through that article, and great article, by the way. Thank you. I'm going to be sending that to some people.
Mhm.
But the point is that when Anthropic is losing umpteen billions of dollars a year, and you told me, what were they going to pay? 1.2 billion or something like that? Is it?
1.5 billion, and just to book authors, just for stealing content from books. That doesn't include videos,
Code,
movies,
images.
music, code. Like, that's just books.
Oof. So what they're trying to do is, and you said this, Adrian, you said this, they're trying to become Coinbase. They're trying to beat the regulations. So
Yeah,
the barrier
they're
to
trying to
entry
get
for
there
anybody
early.
else
Yeah.
is monstrous. And they have enough money to beat the regulations now to get in. Oh, we're grandfathered. We've paid everybody. You can use
Mhm.
us and it's okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
It's worked pretty well for Coinbase. It's a sound strategy, I think.
yeah, but let's look at that for a second. And this is a great point that you brought up, that it's Coinbase. I mean, look at cryptocurrency as a whole. When it came out, the hype was unbelievable. Do you remember 2017, the year of ICOs? Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember how everybody was, I'm going to be a billionaire, and you lost all your money. And I'm going to
Yeah.
be a billionaire, and you became a millionaire, and that's cool, and that's wonderful. God bless. And I'm going to be a billion, and I lost all my, oh, damn, you lost all your money too. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Like, and what's it used now for? So there's this whole DeFi market, and don't get me wrong, I'm involved in the DeFi market.
It hasn't gone away as much as I thought it would.
Yeah, same
And
here.
NFTs seem to have largely gone away, but
Yes, thank God.
cryptocurrency itself is still there. There's still a ton of companies making money in that market.
Well, it's the ultimate derivatives play. I mean, that's the thing. All those people that
Mhm.
do obscure finance stuff, it is the ultimate derivatives play because there's very little regulation, and you can make up things like staking and DeFi and all sorts of cool things. And it's neat and it's interesting. But at the end of the day, who uses it? It's mostly ransomware gangs and scammers. Aside from a few very legitimate investors, and I know $1 trillion
Yeah.
DeFi company and a few like that. But the point is, I'm not trying to switch about cryptocurrency, I promise. The point
Yeah.
is that the market for cryptocurrency changed drastically from what its sort of public face was. What everybody
Yeah.
said the market was is not what it is today. And in AI, I think the same thing is going to happen. What everybody is saying, it's going to take over all these jobs. We're going to
Yeah.
remake all of society with it, everything else. I think it's going to be a very changed market in, say, 3 to 5 years. Where do you think that market's going to go? I'm honestly curious, Adrian, what you think. You have a really
So
good grasp of the future.
so all the studies that we've seen say that it gives you like a 10 to 20% productivity bump. Let's say it's
Okay.
20%, right?
It's
That's a
nice.
day a week. That is phenomenal, right?
Cool.
That's huge, but it's not the amount of money that's been pumped into it. You can't earn that back on 20% productivity bump. I think a lot of these companies will never. I honestly, I'm not sure we've seen this before. Like, OpenAI just promised to spend 300 billion on Oracle Cloud.
I'm sorry, did
On
you say 300 billion?
Yeah, 300 billion. So LinkedIn was acquired for 26 billion. They promised to spend 300 billion just on. So they're kind of moving away from Microsoft. They partnered with
Hiring
Microsoft for
Oracle
a while,
Cloud or spending it in Oracle Cloud?
spending it. Yeah, so it's like a partnership. This is not an investment, but yeah, like they will use Oracle Cloud's compute, right? And Oracle Cloud has always kind of struggled as like a fourth or fifth hyperscaler behind the AWS, Azure, GCPs.
This is going
And
to be a pretty big injection of income or revenue for them, man. Dear God.
yeah, and that's a big number.
Tired of the endless cycle of cloud vulnerabilities? Avoid over 95% of CVEs with minimal container images from Minimus. No bloated base layers, no unnecessary packages, just what your app needs to run. Drop Minimus images into existing deployments to dramatically reduce your attack surface and remediation work. Maximum security, minimum effort. That's Minimus. Visit securityweekly.com/Minimus to learn more.
So some more numbers that came from this article. OpenAI made $4 billion in revenue in 2024, and they spent $2 billion of that on inference costs. That's why you hear Sam Altman complaining about people saying thank you to the chatbots, because it's literally costing them millions and millions of dollars. And they spent $3 billion on training models. So already they're upside down just with inference and just with training models, and they're spending a lot more money than that. So yeah, so where I think this is going is we still need the big, expensive, general purpose chatbots. Largely, I think we're going to need them for reasoning.
Yes.
And what they will do is they will direct tasks to much smaller, much cheaper, performance-wise and money-wise, inference cost-wise, specialized models. Like this model just generates code. This model just finds and fixes vulnerabilities in code. We'll have all these little, smaller, specialized models that you can't use as a general-purpose chatbot, just because we're going to hit this point where we realize, okay, we have to do some cost engineering here. We have to do some some engineering to figure out how to make a product that makes money. I don't know when that happens. Because it's they're just spending more and more money. The investment is still allowing them to not make money.
Well, I mean, Uber, for example, as a very not even close to the same market, Uber ran in the red for how many years until they started pulling a little bit of profit?
Yeah,
Uh,
15, 16.
yeah, I mean, but that's because they were reinvesting the
I don't
money
know if
back in
they're,
themselves
yeah.
every
Are they even that
dime.
old? Yeah.
What's that?
I'm trying to remember when they came out. Was it like late 2000s?
Oh, I don't even remember, dude. It's been
Yeah.
so
So,
long.
but yeah, it was over a decade. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is, I mean, that is the VC way, but the amount of money that we're talking about here,
Is a lot.
the revenue in this industry is something like 40 billion, and what's invested into it is like 700 billion
So
so
it's a
far.
very upside down market. And it's being done that way under the idea that they will reduce costs and increase margins as time goes on. That we are clunky at the start, because that's what we've always been. We've always been clunky at the start of any technology. We always reduce costs, we always reduce size, we always reduce everything about a technology, and we increase the margins as time goes on. The problem here is that you're not talking about a single piece of hardware. You're talking about container loads of NVIDIA cards and
Mhm.
entire cloud data centers and so
Th-
on and so forth.
This market made Nvidia the richest company on the planet,
Yep.
over
Yep.
4
Yep.
trillion market cap.
Which, yeah, it's wow. And it's going to keep doing that. I think honestly, NVIDIA is going to go crazy in terms of stock price and in terms of market cap, because for the next few years, it's going to be the primary driver of these companies,
Mhm.
the ability to do the compute and to do these inferences. However, at the end of the day, what happens at all of these types of things? The market's going to be flooded. Like right now, I can buy a 24 gig, a non-video video card, a GPU for $50 at K80. Like
Mhm.
20 years ago, that would have been $500,000. Okay. It's unbelievable.
Well, the cards these data centers are using don't go for $50.
Yep. I'm saying used and it's old and everything, but
Mhm.
the point is that the cards are advancing so rapidly that they're dumping old video cards on the market, depending on where
Yeah.
you are, but they're going down to less data. Like they're literally just shifting ownership of data centers in a round robin. It's hilarious.
Mhm.
I've got a data center full of 3090s. I've got a data center full of 4090s. Cool. I'll take yours. You take mine. And I'll give you, umpteen billions of dollars in
Yeah.
trade or whatever.
Yeah,
And so they're just
H100s, but
shifting.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it millions, not hundreds. Sorry, you're right. But the
Mhm.
point is that the hardware is going to get better, but it's not like it's getting smaller. It's not like it's getting less expensive. It's not like it's actually getting more expensive. It's not like it, the DGX, if you've looked at the NVIDIA DGX series, holy crap, they're expensive.
Mhm.
Yes, I can, in one rack, I can put enough enough
4.5
GPU.
million. I
Yeah.
just toured the San Diego Supercomputing Center last week, and
Oh, yeah?
they had one full NVIDIA DGX rack, and yeah, he said it cost 4.5 million, that one rack.
For one rack. Now,
Yeah,
mind you, that is worth about, I don't even know, something like a half a data center worth of regular video cards in terms of
right.
GPU power. These things are insane. But,
Mhm.
and there's the DGX workstation. You can buy it for, I think it's 6,000 British pounds. I don't think they're selling it in the US at this point. But when I priced it, it was UK only, and you could buy one for 6,000 British pounds, and it was a box, about
Yeah,
okay big.
yeah.
Personal workstation. I'm like, I'm not doing personal workstation that needs a $6,000 box.
I mean,
Adrian,
you can easily
I know
spec
you will.
out a Mac
Oh, a Mac
Studio that
Studio?
costs
Oh, yeah.
like 20 grand.
Okay, but that's a Mac
Yeah,
Studio. They've always been insane.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it's yeah, with this much money flying around, I have no idea what could happen. I don't know if there's, if the bubble bursts, because the other side of this is we're not hearing a whole lot of happy folks in terms of outcomes with this technology so far. We there's a lot of stories of companies abandoning their AI
Yep.
projects. I think part of it is that the technology is going so fast that companies haven't learned how to use it yet, how to
Right.
get value out of it, how to write a good prompt. Not everybody has had prompt engineering training yet, and at this point, we really need 100% of all workers, regardless of what you do, to have some form of prompt engineering training, and it's just not going to happen, and we're just not getting there as fast as the market is trying to sell us stuff.
Oh,
So we just keep hearing failures. I don't get any value out of Microsoft Copilot, so I'm not paying for it anymore. Now Microsoft is giving away Copilot for free,
is it really?
yeah, for some tiers, and I predicted this at the beginning. Um,
Well, you know what
that
I say
that
about Microsoft Copilot, right?
what
M365 Copilot. Their slogan should be the greatest insider threat vector known to mankind.
I mean, all these agents are going to be like that, right?
Well,
Like
that's
why
the
search
problem.
around blindly once you hack into a company when you can just ask an agent and it tells you where everything's at, right?
Can you show me the most damaging data in the entire company, please? Sure, here you go.
Yeah, and we are starting to see attackers do exactly that.
Oh,
So there have been a few cases now.
it's endemic. And the,
Yeah.
the fun part is that remember that, for example, M365 uses the data on the Microsoft side, not on your local side. So you
Mhm.
don't even see that they're doing that. If they get into your system, they're doing it over there, not where you have any logging ability. So, oops, you're not even going to know what they take. And that's going to be awkward, just a teensy bit. So, the point is that I get value out of AI for multiple reasons. One of them, by the way, is that prompt engineering you talked about, Adrian. I get value out of forcing myself to slow down and think about problems, breaking them down like a programmer, basically. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you break them down, prompt engineering becomes much easier. And it's useful for people to think about how to break down the problem from from career to job to task to subtask to single piece of the blah, blah, blah. Keep breaking it down into kernelized issues. That's how you do proper prompt engineering. Then you can bring it back with subsets and supersets of prompts. But it's a fascinatingly good way to teach a child. For example, I'm teaching my 7-year-old how to think like a programmer using prompt engineering. So
Yeah.
it's useful stuff, but will it eventually become profitable?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like there was this article links to one post, Reddit post, where somebody just creating the to-do list for the app that they want to build cost them $4 in tokens, and
Yeah.
I think it was Cursor, and 100% of Cursor's revenue went to Anthropic just for inference. Like the article has a good point. We've got to start figuring out. Well, and people think it's going to get cheaper, but nobody I talk to, that's watch these markets move. Yeah, I think it's like cord cutting, right? Like I got rid of my cable subscription, for an $8.99, I think it was
Yeah.
Netflix subscription,
Yep.
Now I pay double what I used to pay the cable provider
Streaming fees.
because the costs have gone up and there's more of them and it's more fragmented and
And you have
people are
kids.
going back to piracy now. Like
Yep.
pirating media is cool again because the market no longer makes sense. And I think that could happen in this market as well, where you could just get subscription to death at the enterprise level and at the personal level.
Yep. And so when you're paying, and using your analogy, when you're paying for Netflix, Prime, Disney, Hulu, Paramount, I named a
Peacock,
few other. Peacock, thank you. I forgot that one.
mhm,
Max.
ESPN,
What's that?
ESPN. It's
ESPN.
HBO Max again. They changed it back.
Oh God, I can't.
They paid a couple $1 billion to consultants to decide to change it back again.
You ever heard about a company called PricewaterhouseCoopers?
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah. Do you know? I knew one of their former partners who was there at the time that they paid consultants $4 million back when that was a lot of money to
yeah.
change their name, and they changed it to PwC.
Yeah. Yeah. HBO Max is one of those stories.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the point is, you're right. Piracy is fascinating. So who's going to take open source AI and run it locally, run it community wise, run it for a group, run it as an AI Plex server or whatever
Mhm.
for you and your friends, and you each
Yeah.
contribute a few bucks a month to compute, and then you don't have to buy the $30 a month Copilot subscription.
Plex is a good example there because I know a lot of people that set up Plex servers and then shared it with their friends and
Yep.
family. And
Houses.
so that's a really good comparison. That could happen here.
Oh,
Totally.
I would love if that would happen, because between Llama and Gemma and all of
Well,
the,
it'd also be 100% legal too to do that.
they're open source.
Unlike sharing the Plex server with all your,
I don't know
Pirate
what you're
Bay
talking about.
stuff.
I don't share Plex servers with friends.
All right, couple more items here before we just got a few minutes left before we wrap. So speaking of taking advantage of AI and hacks, there's a story here that most school hacks are carried out by their own students, and I think there's a huge opportunity here. It's been really tough to. I don't know if any of your local schools have cybersecurity courses. I'm lucky enough that one of mine does, and I go in there a couple times a year and I talk to the class and I let them ask whatever questions they want. They actually have a cybersecurity class and club, and it's. I think the solution is the problem. I think let them start learning cybersecurity defense and catching their I don't know, it's not going to be simple like students catching other students hacking. Like there's
No, no, no,
a
no, no,
lot
no,
of
no.
potential issues to work through there, but
It gets
then there are in
easy.
the real workplace as well.
Yeah, but it gets easy. If you see a student that's going, and typing,
Yeah.
well, okay, we'd like you to start helping defend the school. How would you fix it so it's better? And if they
Yeah.
can be smart and use these kids who are incredibly talented and have the most flexible minds known to mankind
Yeah.
to help defend and give them something that is not only a job later in life, a resume item for the I built out the DLP system or whatever for my high school,
Yeah.
like, come on, use the kids, don't prosecute them.
Yeah, I mean, these are useful skills. Lasso this, find these kids hacking stuff and give them opportunities instead of punishing them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Or send them to the
I
Marines and put them in cybercom. Either way, no big deal.
there's a huge opportunity here, and I think a lot of old school thinking is kind of preventing that from preventing them from benefiting from it. So I think the problem is the solution here.
I agree.
All right, what else do we have here? We just got a couple minutes left. So
You want to do
I
3 or
don't think we
5?
have time to really do justice to the NPM breach here. It was 2 or 3 folks, package owners on with NPM got their packages compromised. It was a phishing email. It was a really good phishing email. to reset MFA, saying they'd be locked out of their accounts if they don't update their MFA. A few folks with packages that get billions of downloads per week got popped, but it got. I think this is also a success story too, because it got spotted super fast. Most of it got locked down, and the malware got removed from these packages within like an hour, I think, in most cases. And
Only like 3 million people got infected.
So GitHub is saying nobody got infected. I think that's kind of impossible with these download numbers. Like,
Yeah,
somebody had to have grabbed the malicious versions of these.
2.4
given how
billion a
often-
week means that every
Yeah.
second, 100,000 people are doing it. A million.
So I did the math, and it's 250,000 per minute.
Okay.
Is what it comes out to. 250,000. Obviously, that's not going to be smoothly spread across every hour of every day and of a week, but yeah, it's and in the end, all they were doing is stealing crypto.
Oh, they're cryptojacking, yeah.
And
here's
supposedly,
Here's the thing that's really
the
important. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, when you hack a billion, like over 1 million developers' laptops, and you get $600 in crypto out of it,
You've done something wrong.
You're just not good at cybercrime. Like, do something.
Here's the interesting thing, though, and I want to make this one last point, is that when you have a single person who has such low-level libraries that are getting 2.4 billion downloads a week, the amount of supply chain attack that is possible, not just with that person, with all the other people that are in similar situations, is out of this world. And people wonder about our supply chain risk management.
Yeah.
No, people, we're way off base here. It's much worse than you think, and we've got to get better at this prep.
Yeah, 100%. And then we're going to wrap up here. We don't have time to talk about the story, but definitely check out number 3. On ESW, I always have a squirrel story that's kind of a funny thing, or a non sequitur. And somebody ran Claude in a loop for 3 months, telling it to do whatever it wanted to do in creating a programming language. And it created a Gen Z programming language called Cursed. And it is hysterical. It is so fun. It works. It works. And I mean, if you know any Gen Z slang, it's worth a read. It's very funny. And that's a great read. If you need something light, that's not politics, that's not AI in flames, go check out that story number 3. All right, thank you, Josh, for joining me today on very little notice.
About half an hour. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Amazing. Big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Application Security Weekly. Remember to subscribe, share on the socials, check out the show notes. Definitely check out this new programming language called Cursed. And speaking of supply chain hacks, check out Lime Scene by Buried Alive. Mike is back next week on Application Security Weekly.